Hello everyone and welcome back to the Red Bull Ring for today's F124 hot lap and setup guide. Yes, we return to what is, in terms of raw lap time, the shortest track on the Formula 1 calendar. This place is the epitome of easy to learn, difficult to master. So yeah, we are back today, obviously talking you through, explaining you around this circuit, what you want to be looking for, your braking points, your traction zones, your gears, all that good stuff, providing you with a setup, and then of course, as always, showcasing it all in one go at the end of the video as well. Of course, at the time we're recording, we are super close now to 10,000 subscribers on the channel, so if you aren't already, please do hit that sub button as well. Of course, you know, I'm providing all of these setups to you guys for free after all, so hopefully you are appreciating that as well. And yeah, if you can help us get one step closer to that 10k milestone, I would greatly appreciate it. As always, timestamps will be linked down in the description below if you just want to head to either the track guide or the hot lap, or anything else, or even just the setup, of course. But yeah, we're going to go out then onto the circuit, and I'll talk you guys around a lap here from the Styrian Mountains. Well, a lap then here in the Austrian mountains, of course, kicks off like it does everywhere else with the start-finish line. You're going to keep the car over on the left-hand side all the way up in 8th gear as you make your ascent in towards turn 1. You want to be aiming for the 100-meter board on the outside of this first corner. Try just as you get to the curb to get those left-hand side wheels nicely over it and onto the green stuff, just to open up the run in towards this first turn just that little bit more. Then just as you go past the 100-meter braking board, you want to bring the car down into 4th gear, ready for the turn 1 apex. Now, it actually took me a few laps to realise this. The sausage curb on the inside of turn 1 now on F124, it basically doesn't matter. With how good the cars are inside this year's game, and obviously able just to mount curbs so well, you can absolutely cut that curb as much as you dare through the first corner, and you know, the car will balance out. You will just get away with it, apparently, in this year's game. So as we try and roll the car on the exit, you want to go back into 5th gear, avoid the sausage curb on the outside of turn 1, though it will cost you speed as you make the way all the way up the hill there. As we open up the DRS zone, obviously, this is, I mean, they class this as turn 2. I don't really see it as a corner. You're basically just trying to take the line of least resistance, though, as you make your way up the hill. Of course, again, you're going to be all the way up into 8th gear. Try to avoid making sure that you don't take the MotoGP chicane. But I would actually say avoid the AstroTurf on the inside here as you make your way up the hill, because you don't want to ram the car over the edge of the curb. You actually want to hug it, the white line on the outside there, and as you make your way up towards the top of the hill, get the car up over that curb, and again, braking just as you reach the 100-meter board, and you're going to go all the way from 8th gear down into 2nd, ready for this hairpin. I like to kind of turn in quite late, try and take quite a late apex ready for this corner, but it's really important that you actually keep a little bit of throttle in, keep those rear wheels under control, otherwise you're going to find you really suffer with rear locking, and you're going to be spending a lot of time looking back down the hill if you go for a spin as well there. On the exit of the corner, I really like to get the car straightened up nice and early. You can short shift back up into 3rd gear, and then basically just immediately as soon as you do that, get your foot pretty much to the floor, straighten the car up, and then once you get into 4th gear and you open up the DRS, then you can start trying to arc the car back over to the right-hand side. A bit like the run between turn 1 and turn 3, you're again just trying to pick the line of least resistance as you make your way down the hill. Once more, you're going to be all the way up in 8th gear, and well, for the 3rd time so far on this lap, you want to be eyeing up the 100-meter board on the outside there. I find, just because the track actually falls away as you make your way over the top of the hill, I would say in qualifying trim, risk it over the curbs, try it, see what happens. In race trim, though, I would say, honestly, keep the car between the white lines. And again, you're going to be going all the way down from 8th gear, this time around into 3rd gear, ready for this corner. Really try and chuck the car in for the apex. Make sure you haven't scrubbed off too much speed, though. Obviously, otherwise, you're just going to find yourself kind of wedged on the inside. But of course, yeah, if you're finding the car's understeering too much, maybe bring it down into 2nd. But ultimately, you really want to try and get on the throttle off of this corner there. As you attack the curb on the inside, you can really open up the steering on the exit. The circuit does kind of open up for you, so use 4th gear, and then all the way back up into 5th, 6th, and 7th, as once again you try and get the car back over to the right-hand side. For the first time on this lap, you're not aiming for the 100-meter board. In fact, you're not even aiming for the 50. You're going to go just past that, just as you actually reach that orange gantry on the outside of the circuit. I'll just try and make sure that it is in shot. That's where you're going to be aiming to try and get the car down from 7th gear. You want to flick it in down 2 gears into 5th as you try and make your way through the first left-hander even of the lap there. Avoid the curb on the inside, really try and roll on the throttle on the exit. Back into the 6th gear you go, and try to get the outside wheels over the curbing, but be very, very careful that you don't dip a wheel in the gravel. This corner is completely flat out in qualifying trim if you get it nailed, but I would say in race trim though, bring the car down to 5th. Again, I would either take all of the curb or really just try to avoid it and stay near it as best as you can. Roll on the throttle, 6th gear on the exit, and then, yeah, through here. Again, the shortest run possible. Try and get the car over the curbs, but careful you don't dip a wheel on the grass on the outside there, because it will just cost you a little bit of speed as you make your way down in towards the final corner. Very, very bumpy down through here. Again, though, get the car back over on the left-hand side. I leave it in 7th gear, tip the car in, completely flat out again in qualifying trim. You can obviously dab the brake, go down into 6th gear, though, if you're in race trim there as well. Try and get the car back over on the left-hand side of the circuit, and then down 2 gears ready for the final corner of the lap. Attack the curb on the inside, and then pretty much as soon as you reach that apex, you want to have your foot to the floor, mash it to the throttle, get on that DRS once more, and as you cycle your way back up towards the line, that is going to be a lap of the Austrian Grand Prix circuit. Like I said, it's only really 9 corners around here. I think now only really 5 braking zones on this lap. It's absolutely mental inside F1 24, and that's why it's so easy to learn, but so difficult to master. So let's head then back to the garage, and we'll take a look through the setup. As you can see then, taking a look at the leaderboard, we were about 1.2 seconds off some of the best times in the world there. Like I said, you know, it's a very, very short lap, but still is certainly one that is difficult to try and get fully hooked up. And again, you know, this is a track where in time trial you can really go with quite a ridiculous setup. So yeah, this one obviously is completely designed for racing and will hopefully provide you guys with the stability you need. Honestly, I found trying to sort out the aerodynamics here to be very, very difficult because obviously you've got so many long straights, but obviously also so many high downforce corners around here. 30-27 I felt was a compromise everywhere, but ultimately it was what I was able to find the most pace with. You know, I could lower the wing as low as like 21-18 and you'd absolutely fly down the straights but then just have nothing through the corners, or I could run it as high as like 35-31, and obviously then you got a little bit more downforce through the corners. You know, the car is completely flat easily, but ultimately I found this was the decent enough balance. Of course, you've got to remember though, the final 2 corners on this lap are brutal for track limits, so if you're in a league race, you want to make sure that whatever wing angle you've got, you feel comfortable in the car and that you can keep it between the white lines, because I guarantee you, if you don't get any penalties during a race, you're going to gain some places come the end of it, because this place, yeah, is brutal for track limits, just as Esteban Ocon as well there. 45-50 on the differential with 30 on the engine braking. It pretty much seems to be the default now that I'm running inside F1 24. Of course, this circuit does have a couple of big traction zones, so trying to make sure you keep the car balanced through those is really, really important as well. Again, you can lower this down to like 40-45 if you're really struggling for traction, but I find obviously it just ups the tyre wear a little bit. Tyre wear isn't much of a concern around this venue. You can actually go for an aggressive one-stop soft to medium, but I would say, generally speaking, the medium to hard is probably the way to go. But of course, it's so much about the DRS trains here, so just trying to make sure that you stay out of trouble is absolutely critical. Minus 3.2, minus 1.8, 0.11, and 0.10 on the front cambers and front and rear toe angles. Again, where this track has obviously got quite a few traction zones, but also quite a lot of camber changes and elevation. You know, you really want to make sure that you're feeling confident with the tyres, what they're doing, how well they're connected to the road as well, because of course you can find, you know, that they can lift up and things like that. You know, you're not going to take off or anything like that, but you know, it just provides that extra bit of stability, which is going to be really, really useful when you get into a race there. 31-14, one of the most aggressive suspension presettings we've ever done inside this game. Simply just for turn 3. You're finding that, well, I was finding anyway, that the back end was squatting quite a lot. That was causing the rear to step out on me, and obviously then it was, you know, reducing our braking performance. So I've gone with a really, really soft rear end of the car just to allow it to kind of move around underneath you a bit more. Obviously still keeping quite a firm front. Basically just obviously gives you better rotation through the corners as well there. 12-10 on the anti-roll bars is pretty middle of the road, pretty much standard on this game. And then ride height 28-66. I found the car is still bottoming out a little bit, so I would say, you know, you can up this to like 31-70, and it might be a little bit better. Or, if you're feeling confident over the curbs, you can lower it to like 25-62. And obviously then, you're running a little bit more risky, but you should have a bit more straight line speed up the hill in towards turn 2 then. 97.54, it's just my brake bias on this game. It works for me. So yeah, obviously just alter that to whatever works for you. I would say if you're struggling with front locking at the top of the hill, I would move the brake bias to like 53 or even 52%. That'll just, sorry, no, not that, 55, 56% even, I should say. Just obviously then it'll provide you with a little bit more confidence, but it will mean all your braking zones around this lap are a few meters longer, especially down the hill in towards turn 4. 23.5 front tyre pressures, 21.1 rear tyre pressures. This place, you don't need to worry about the tyres overheating. It's a really, really good track for it because, of course, there's so many straights and really a lot of the corners. You've only obviously got turn 6 and turn 7 and then turn 9 and turn 10 that are 2 corners that are quite close together. But, of course, obviously, they both go off 2 left-handers and then 2 right-handers. So, yeah, you really actually do quite an even load over the tyres here as well, which is super, super important. But, yeah, there we go then. That is going to be a hot lap and setup guide here for the Austrian Grand Prix. If you have enjoyed it, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed. I'm going to leave you guys with a hot lap, and we'll be back tomorrow, ready for the home of Formula 1 at the British Grand Prix.